On Network Africa this week, terror strikes in Libya and lives are lost. Then relief efforts continue in Malawi to help victims of flash floods, but barriers to land access pose a challenge.
We have got several departments, and every department is taking a role. Let's say here we have got people who are doing nutrition, they are screening, they are monitoring the growth. We have also people who are immunizing children against child killer diseases.
And some good news for mothers. We tell you why early daycare might be just what your baby needs. Hello and welcome to Network Africa with me, Cynthia Arre. Now, Libyan authorities have confirmed that two heavily armed gunmen stormed a luxury Tripoli hotel favored by top Libyan officials and visiting delegations on Tuesday, January the 27th, killing at least 8 people, including 4 foreigners, before blowing themselves up.
Shooting erupted inside the 5-star Corinthia hotel, and security forces evacuated guests, including Tripoli's prime minister and an American delegation, after gunmen blasted through the building's security and reception. One security officer described his lucky escape, saying one of the attackers hugged him, but his bomb did not detonate at that stage. The attack was one of the worst assaults targeting foreigners since the 2011 civil war that ousted Muammar Gaddafi and fractured oil-producing North African state into fiefdoms of competing armed groups, with 2 national governments both claiming legitimacy. A militant group associated with Islamic State insurgents in Iraq and Syria claimed responsibility for the hotel attack as revenge for the death of a suspected Libyan al-Qaeda operative in the United States. That's according to the SITE monitoring service. But Tripoli officials who have set up their own self-proclaimed government blamed former Gaddafi loyalists bent on assassinating their prime minister, who was at the hotel. A security officer was also killed in the clashes and 3 guards died when the attackers set off a car bomb in the car park outside the hotel. Libya is caught in a conflict between 2 rival factions, one allied with the internationally recognized government, the other with Libya-Dawn forces, who took over the capital Tripoli in the summer and set up their own government.
Now, efforts focused on providing emergency and medical relief to thousands of people affected by recent floods in Malawi are still ongoing after flash floods in the country caused extensive damage to homes and food crops. Many remain cut off from land access, making delivery of life-saving supplies very difficult.
Mercy Zambez is preparing a meal for her family at the Tizola displacement camp in Chikwawa, southern Malawi. Over 1,000 Malawians now live here after floods caused by days of torrential rain in the country recently swept away bridges, roads and homes, killing about 200 people. Mercy, her husband and 3 children were asleep when the water started rising. They took the children, their health cards and a few pots and then moved to higher ground. She has been back to her house several times to inspect the damage and says the family has lost all the crops they had planted this season, including maize, sweet potatoes and rice. They now depend on her husband's bicycle taxi business, which makes about $2 a day. This year the floods have been so heavy. We have never seen anything like this. Even the Share Riverside, everything is destroyed. We have never seen anything like it. We escaped after the house collapsed and grabbed some items quickly. Later I found that my child's hospital card had fallen along the path, so I quickly rushed back to get it. I knew if the child falls sick and I don't have this card, it will be a problem. The displaced families had been sheltered by host communities in a nearby village and have been supported by aid agencies who are building toilets, monitoring children for malnutrition, and providing food aid and clean water. agencies are airlifting more than 100 tons of high-energy biscuits to meet the immediate needs of those affected. The World Food Programme has said ready-to-eat food will be prioritized for the most vulnerable people, particularly children who have been displaced from their homes and have no access to food or cooking facilities.
Here in Chikwa, we have, on nutritional, we have major three problems. That's stunting, which is rated at 48% as a district, and wasting, which is at 11%. And for the underweight and under 5 children, which is at 3%.
UNICEF says over 121,000 people have been displaced and thousands remain cut off because of the waters, making delivery of life-saving supplies difficult as only 2 helicopters and 1 boat are able to reach the trapped communities. Malawi is one of the poorest countries in southern Africa. Nearly 50% of children are stunted. More than 60% of the population lives on less than $1.25 a day. The flooding, which destroyed thousands of hectares of crops, has raised fears of a cholera outbreak and cases of malnutrition in the southern half of the country.
We are expecting, as a camp like this one, to have a lot of maybe outbreaks, like diarrheas and also childhood immunosable diseases, polio and so on. So what we do is, maybe as a health sector, we have got several departments, and every department is taking a role. Let's say here we have got people who are doing nutrition, they are screening, they are monitoring the growth. We have also people who are immunizing children against child-killer diseases. And also we have got the environmental department, whereby they are looking at the water and sanitation of the area.
There are also worries about the staple maize crop which feeds the nation. Last year, Malawi's farmers harvested 3.9 million tons of maize, providing a surplus of almost 1 million tons. The wet weather has also caused damage in neighboring Mozambique, which has been hit by catastrophic floods in the past. Bridges have collapsed and the newly elected government has declared a red alert in central and northern areas. South Africa has sent military helicopters, divers and medics to assist with rescue and relief efforts.
Now, protests which hindered a reform which could have led to an extension of Congo President Joseph Kabila's rule have exposed deep rifts in his ruling coalition and galvanized opposition, increasing the possibility of further unrest ahead of elections which are due next year. President Kabila has refused to comment on his intentions, saying it's a distraction from his political agenda.
The Democratic Republic of Congo's parliament gave final approval on Sunday to an electoral law devoid of a controversial provision that risked delaying a vote due in 2016 and had triggered days of deadly protest. The reversal is a major blow for President Joseph Kabila's camp. Kabila took power in the DRC in 2001 following the assassination of his father, and he won disputed elections in 2006 and 2011 in Africa's largest copper producer, but he is constitutionally barred from seeking a third term. A government bill to require a national census before the vote, which the opposition said would have delayed it by years, led to 4 days of street protests last week, in which rights groups said more than 40 people were killed by security forces. With Western powers and the influential Catholic Church calling for the reform to be scrapped, legislators bowed to public pressure at the weekend and abandoned the census requirement in a dramatic climb down.
All the initiatives that Kabila and his team are developing are all so that he can remain in office. For us, he has to go, and for us today, we cannot say we are happy. No, we are not happy, because the law has not been repealed, so we will continue to fight to ensure that Kabila leaves.
With constitutional term limits looming for several presidents in the region, not least in neighboring Congo Republic, the outcome of the crisis is being closely watched across the continent. Kabila has refused to comment on his intentions, saying it is a distraction from his political agenda. But for many analysts, the most significant outcome of the showdown was the gaping divisions exposed within the president's governing coalition. Kabila's majority has been rocked in recent months by high-profile defections, including the popular governor of his home province, copper-rich Katanga, and Jean-Claude Muyambo, head of a party which withdrew from Kabila's coalition and was arrested in Kinshasa last week as he helped organize demonstrations. Several current members of coalition parties spoke out against the census provision following the protest. The Senate, which typically aligns with the government, voted unanimously to remove the measure after the unrest.
As a senator and member of the Electoral Commission, I wanted them to understand that we cannot organize elections by contesting the rules of the game. All parties involved should agree, all of them. And we must have an electoral consensus on the rules of the game, on the timetable. What happened today is just one element. After that, we need to continue the dialogue so that we can have a global timetable, inclusive, where all the parties agree. We need to listen to everyone. We can't have one majority rule against the opposition.
Opposition spokesmen say the law still contains several problematic provisions that might delay the election, including what they say is the ambiguous phrasing of parts that could be used to justify holding a census before any ballot. The final text of the law has not yet been made public. They also question whether DRC has the financial and technical capacity to hold the full slate of elections from local to national due in the next 19 months. At the 2006 and 2011 elections, the 22,000-strong UN peacekeeping mission played a significant role in helping to organize the ballot. The Election Commission is yet to publish a calendar for 2016 elections, despite repeated calls from the opposition and international donors to do so.
Coming up, is racism still an issue in South Africa?
To then conclude that there is an attack on all the foreigners that are in this country, that is totally not true.
We'll tell you in a moment.